So let's go ahead and dive on in. Again, we're talking about managing teams today. We'll be covering how to set up and maximize teams in Pipeline, as well as learn how transactions, users, permissions, etc., are kept separate. And then also how to communicate within your teams to optimize and streamline your workflow. Okay. If you've got any questions, like I was mentioning a moment ago, locate that chat area in Zoom here, and feel free to type those in as the webinar is going on, or you can hold them till the end, whatever you prefer. At the end of this session, we'll have 2 Q&A sessions. First one regarding any questions about managing teams, and then another Q&A session for any other just general questions you might have. We'd be happy to stick on and on the line and answer questions about anything else as well. Okay, so let's get started. Again, talking about managing teams. And of course, the first step in doing that is to actually set up a team. And the way that you do that in Pipeline is through locations. Now, locations may seem like a separate office or physical location, which of course they can be, but they also are what Pipeline uses to manage teams. So let's go ahead and create a new location to represent our team here now. Okay, oops, let me get back there. Okay, so let's head on over to Pipeline. And to get to locations, I go to my name in the upper right corner, then admin settings, and then manage locations. And adding locations could not be any easier. Literally, it's clicking add location, adding the name of your team, let's say Jerry's team, and then clicking add location. And really, that's it to set up. For our examples in this webinar, we're actually going to use Ginger's team, so keep that in mind. But really, that's it for actually setting up the team. Now, let's go ahead and apply that team, or actually apply that team to some users and transactions. So let's go on back over to Pipeline. I'm going to go to my Manage Users area. And the first person I probably want to set up to be a part of my team is my team lead, or my admin for that particular team. So in this case, Ginger. So I'm going to open Ginger's profile. And there are 3 areas that I want to specify to make Ginger an admin of her team. The first is to actually put her team as her primary location. So set Ginger's team as her primary location. I also want to check this, make this user the primary administrator for this location. That tells the system, if I hover over here, that tells the system that when a system message is sent to a user in this location, make the from be this user. In other words, these messages will come from this particular user, right? So that way, that gives the agents an appropriate person to reply to when they get those messages. Okay, so that's the second thing. And then third is to actually give Ginger some permissions in her team. So I'm going to go down to Ginger's team. Since she's the admin, I'll probably give her nearly all or all of the relevant admin level permissions, or depending on what her role is, whatever's appropriate, including possibly the ability to create and manage her own users right here in Manage Users. So, but the most important permission you want to give her is this view all transactions. Whenever you give someone view all transactions in a location, that designates them as an admin for that particular location. So you want to be sure to check that one, okay? So let me go ahead and save Ginger. She is now an admin in her location. So she or I can now go in and specify or put agents in that location as well. So let's go ahead and go into Carol Doe here. And there are 2 things I do for her. First, put her in Ginger's location, on Ginger's team, and then give her permissions in Ginger's team. Okay, so here, probably if she's an agent, I'd probably give her some agent-specific permissions depending on what your office generally grants, and then save her. Now, the beauty of having these locations be separate here from a permissions perspective is I can fine-tune exactly who should do what in which location. So let's say for this particular person in Ginger's team, she can create transactions, assign docs, upload docs, etc. But perhaps on Bradley's team, they can only upload docs. right? So you can completely refine exactly what you want people to do in which locations. Alrighty? Okay, so let's go ahead and update that user, and you do the same for all the users in the team. So that is applying the location to users. Let's hop over now to apply it to transactions as well. When I add a new transaction, let me actually do this in a separate tab here. When I add a new transaction, whenever I do, I've got to specify what location to put it in. So that allows me to place the appropriate transactions into Ginger's team. Okay, and here's one that's already got been assigned to Ginger's team here. Now the beauty of this is that since these transactions now belong to those locations, I can filter and sort, and in some cases even report on transactions by location. So a huge benefit there. Also, by putting locations in a particular team, or by putting transactions in a particular location or team, that means that I don't need to add Ginger to each transaction individually. She can view all transactions based on that permission that we gave her to view all transactions in her location. She can view all transactions for that location without having to be added to each one. Okay. And then thirdly, from a filtering and security standpoint, Ginger will only see her relevant data. So let me hop over to Ginger's account real quick. So I can see here, actually go over to transactions. And as Ginger, I can see all of my transactions, or only my transactions that I've got visibility to. And just to contrast it, when I'm a master admin, for example, and I go to transactions, I'll see all the transactions in the account, no matter the location here. But again, for Ginger's account, she can only view her own transactions. Okay, so that makes it helpful for her because she's not having to filter through other people's transactions. She's not seeing transactions she shouldn't have access to, etc. And then likewise for tasks, I'm only seeing as Ginger, I'm only seeing my tasks that I should have access to, not everyone else's tasks. So again, reduces my clutter, and from a security standpoint, only allows me to see those that I should see. All right. Okay, so we applied that location to users and transactions, and now is where the fun comes in, unassigned docs. So let me head over back to Ginger's account and go to unassigned. So here, since I'm on unassigned, obviously I can see my Ginger's docs that I've uploaded to unassigned docs, but I can also see my team's docs that have been uploaded, right? So Carol's, Rachel's, etc. When they upload docs, since their primary location is my team, their docs are going to be uploaded to Ginger's team, and I can see them. So that allows me to manage them from here. I can assign them on, I can break them apart, whatever your workflow is for needing to process or manage docs from unassigned docs, I can do it for my entire team. And again, that whole benefit of filtering so that I'm not looking at docs that are not mine, so it's not cluttering or making more effort for me, as well as from a security standpoint, I'm not seeing docs that I shouldn't have access to see. Okay, so that is unassigned. So that's obviously a major component of just managing your teams within Pipeline. And then the last area is really just communicating with your team through Pipeline. Like I mentioned, when you set that admin as the primary admin, and you can have multiple admins for each location, that's fine, but there's only going to be that one primary admin who the messages come from. Once you set that admin as the primary admin, communications flow better because you've got the messages coming from that person. But also there are instances where communication happens that aren't related to the system messages that are coming out. For example, uploading docs. So let's head back over to Pipeline. Let's say that some agents uploaded docs to transaction. Obviously, the admin needs to know about those so they can come and take a look at those docs. And there are two ways for an admin to get notified when docs are uploaded to a transaction. The first is for the admin herself or himself to come to the upper right-hand corner and go to their personal profile. I'm going to open that in a separate tab here. And make sure that receive notification when agent adds a doc to a transaction is checked. Okay, whenever that's checked, I'll get automatically notified when an agent adds a doc to a transaction. But in some cases, that may not be feasible because due to the volume, or it's just inconvenient, et cetera, and you don't want to get notified automatically. So in that case, what you would do is train, I have a transaction open here. You would train agents to manually notify you when they've uploaded a doc. So in this case here, let's say an agent has uploaded a doc, they can initiate a note/email, check off Ginger to let them know that, and then type a message letting them know that they've uploaded a doc, and go ahead and send it on. Okay. And notice that Ginger's name does appear here. That's why it's important when earlier we were setting her up as an admin to make sure that she's got that view all transactions permission that designates her as an admin. That's what facilitates that a person showing up in the staff section here. And obviously you want them to show up here again for ease of letting you know that they've uploaded docs, or just ease of communicating in general. Again, you know, communicating, team communicating, supported here, hugely encouraged. So you want to have that name there so it makes it easy for the agents to communicate with the admins throughout the whole process. All right. Okay, so that is communicating in Pipeline. And really, those are the main components of how to structure your team in Pipeline. So the question then becomes, should you add your teams to Pipeline? Because if you've got teams and it may not necessarily be that they're most efficient to have managed in Pipeline. So the questions you want to ask yourself are, do I need to segment my permissions? Do I have separate permissions for my teams that I need to isolate? Do I need my transactions separated so that one team can see transactions, the other team cannot, et cetera? Or admin, from an admin perspective? Does my team admin need to manage docs from unassigned, the unassigned page? And do the system messages need to come from the team admin? So answer those questions to determine whether it would be most efficient to go ahead and put your teams into Pipeline. If you've got teams, but they actually kind of commingle, they cross-support each other, there really aren't those distinct barriers, then maybe setting up teams in Pipeline is actually not going to benefit you because from a practical standpoint, you don't need those separations. So really, again, just determine based on all that we've learned today whether that would be beneficial. And if you've got any question at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We are super happy to just go over whatever your specific scenario is, look at the pros and cons to see whether setting up teams would be beneficial for your actual account or not. We're happy to do that. And really, that's it. I'll open it up to questions now. That's it for just kind of going over how they work in Pipeline. You're welcome to hop off if you don't want to stay for the Q&A section, but let's go ahead and look and see if we've got any questions, and feel free to type those in there now if you've got any about anything that we've covered.